Hi, my name's Chris Peterson. I'm the owner of Rivendale Homes, and I wanted to review with you today a blog that's posted on our website that you can check out. It's called How to Create a Budget for Your Custom Home Build. Obviously, this is a very important early step that you'll want to do, and it gives you an idea of what the individual components of the overall build might look like. So let's say you're at the point where you've developed how much you can spend. Let's say you're bringing $500,000 in cash equity to the table. You've talked to a lender and they've told you that they can qualify you for about a $1.5 million construction loan. So you know that you've got about $2 million to work with. The first step is to try and break this down into individual components that I'll review with you. The first component is the land. How much can you afford to spend on land and still stay on overall budget of $2 million? Generally, we find that the land component takes up about 25 to 35% of the overall gross price, or in this case, your gross budget of the build. In this case, you have $2 million that you're working with. So typically what we would recommend that you find a lot that takes up about 20 to 30% of that. Why not the 25 to 35 that I said originally? It's because there's additional costs. Once you buy the land, you have some utility costs that you're going to have to do. You may have to upgrade the water line. You may have to put a septic system in. You may have to do some grading, some retaining walls. So that 25 to 35% is comprised of the land and the site improvement costs. So again, in this case, you've got a $2 million build. You're going to look for a lot around $400,000 to $600,000 that'll get you finished out at around that $2 million price point. Typically today we're seeing custom homes built for about $350 to $700 a foot. This is just for the house, not the lot, but we're talking typically just the home. So again, on your $2 million build, this would put you at around $940 to about $1.3 million on the vertical, the actual hard costs that go into building the sticks, what we would refer to as the sticks and bricks of the house. This covers your builder's fee and other accessory fees. Typically, you can spend as little as $30,000 on cabinets. You could spend over $100,000 on cabinets. This is all rolled up in that number. And what I would recommend, again, going back to our website, you can register. We have a line item budget document there that's got over 40 different line items, and it'll give you percentages, like how much typically does a foundation run. Say again, you're in the $940 to $1.3 million range. Let's call it $1 million for a round number. And they'll tell you typically we find the percentages are about, the foundations are about 22% of this percentage. Framing material and labor is X percent of this percentage. If you really want to get into the weeds and get to understand how much each individual item is going to cost you, you can, again, as I said, go on our website, you can register. There's an Excel document there with all the line items broken out and the percentages that we find generally that they take up of a build. So the third item your budget would be comprised of is something we call professional services. So this is your architectural, your design services, your structural engineering, your soils reports, your civil engineering if you have that, and this would also include permit fees. So again, this covers about 5 to 8% of your overall budget. So again, if you have a $2 million budget, you're going to be in about the $100,000 to $160,000 range for all of these services put together. This is how much you'd want to budget for those items there. And again, it includes your permits, your civil engineering, structural engineering, soils consultants, any individual consultants that you have in addition to your architect. The last item that we have in the budget is your contingency fund. We'd always recommend a contingency fund. Quite often in construction, things do come up that are unplanned, and it's necessary to have a little money set aside in the contingency fund. In fact, the lenders will require it, that you'll have this. So typically what we find is at the end of the process, not early on in the process, but early on we might start with a larger contingency as we're flushing some unknown items out. Maybe we're going through the design, the first generation of design, but once we get to the end of the design process and we've bid the whole project out, we recommend a 5% budget. Some lenders require a 10% budget contingency. So you're going to set aside about $100,000 to $200,000 in a contingency fund. That money can be drawn from unknown items that come up during the course of the construction. Our experiences generally were less than 2%, but we always want to budget a little more. That's why we recommend at least 5%. There are 3 common budget pitfalls to avoid here, and I want to go over those for you. These are things that are going to break your budget and push you over the amount that you have budgeted. First of all, the most common item is underestimating the site work. This represents one of the most expensive as you can get. Site work's very expensive. So when you buy the lot, I would recommend before you buy the lot that you meet with a builder and have them take a look at it for you. Lay people they really can't comprehend how expensive things are. They don't know the zoning, the planning requirements. If it's a lot in the city of Austin, I would recommend meeting with an Austin builder. If it's a lot in the city of Dallas, I'd recommend meeting with a Dallas builder, somebody that's an expert on your area. But before you commit to the lot, please get a second opinion, because this is the most common area that we see where people have to bust their budget. The second most common area is really changes. Once the house is started, the train, as they call it, is on the track, everything's been selected, changes become very expensive. A lot of times things have already been ordered. They're either arrived, there's at the least restocking fees. Sometimes you can't exchange those. If they can be reordered, then there's quite often delays in construction, which costs time and money. Obviously, each day you're paying property taxes and insurance and supervision on the job. So you want to minimize changes as much as possible because those become very expensive. And then thirdly, just a very small item, not a small item, but it's something that quite often we find homeowners forget, is temporary living expenses. If you've got to sell your house, go into a rental for a year while your new home's being built, you'll want to have that budgeted for. That's quite often something that we find that people don't account for. So what I wanted to do here is help you understand how much of your overall budget is spent on individual items like your land, your vertical construction, your architecture, and your contingency. Those are the four big baskets, and then from there we break those out into many smaller baskets. Like I said, on our website we have an Excel spreadsheet that you can get that'll break out the 35 plus line items that go into the construction of a house on a percentage basis. If you really wanted to wade into the weeds, that'll help you understand even further. But on this build, as we said, in summary, $2 million, roughly you're going to have about $400,000 to $600,000 to spend on land, about $940,000 to $1.3 million to spend on the hard costs. So you can see right away, it'll help you start to see the project take shape. Give you an idea what neighborhoods you can look in. Where can I go and find land for $400,000 to $600,000? How many square feet can I get in that $940,000 to $1.3 million if that's my budget? So right away it'll help your vision start to take place. Quick conversation with a good builder in your area will help you really accelerate this process. They might even have some plans that they've already built, or they can definitely show you plans that will help you get an idea of what you can do for that budget amount. And hopefully this will help you move quicker through the process.